Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Pigment Playtime, a colour series which I look at pigments and paints and see how they mix with each other, how they play, and to get under the skin of them a bit more. So today we're going to be looking at violets. The typical one that most people use is Dioxazine Violet, so I'm comparing every other one to that colour. I'm mixing it with a few colours today, these being a cool yellow, PY3, a phthalo green, PG7, Perylene Scarlet, which escapes me the pigment number right now. I think it's PR179 from the top of my head, not too sure. And the warm yellow, PO49, and a blue, PB29. These are all colours I would normally mix with a violet. I'm also going to be doing an opacity test to see how transparent or opaque they are. So starting with the first one, Dioxazine Violet. This one is a mixture of Winsor & Newton and Lucas. I kind of mixed the two together in the palette when I poured it. It's a deep valued dark violet colour that can be washed out to a nice pale light violet. It's extremely pigmented, most Dioxazines are. People sometimes want to shy away from this colour because it has rumours of poor light fastness. However, in tests I've seen, I find the colour highly light fast and any kind of fading is pretty minimal. It's probably a good light fastness rating rather than excellent like most colours are. When mixed, it makes very strong colours. With yellows it makes very nice neutrals. With blues and greens it makes a very nice sort of turquoisey kind of colours which are really nice. Violets are really good for making shadows. And with red it makes a nice pinky violet colour. The next colour that I have here is Scheveninger Violet from Old Holland. It's made from PV19. A couple of brands offer colours similar to this. PV19 varies in colour. It's a quinacridone, so it's quite strong, and it does also make quite a nice range of mixes. It's quite surprising a way to see how many different violets there are available and how they vary so much from each other. This is a warmer violet and is making some really nice warm mixes here. And that is a really nice sort of orangey colour made there with the quinacridone gold. The next colour is Blue Violet from Sennelier, PV15. This is also most commonly known as Ultramarine Violet. This is another really common one a lot of people use because it's quite light fast and it's a softer violet colour. It's quite common in most brands. I've not found a brand that doesn't make it yet. It's a really nice colour. It's more of a subtle purple though. I do have a couple of violets in this brand of Ultramarine Violet, and I'll show you those at the end to compare them. But they're all really different from each other in a way. They're the same in mass tone, but there's a couple of subtle differences between each brand. And again, I really like the mix that this one makes. It's definitely less granulating than some violets. The previous two violets, the Dioxazine and Scheveninger Violet, don't granulate at all. This next one is Cobalt Violet, PV14. It's a granulating violet and it's definitely very different from any of the other ones on the list that I've already tried. This one is from Rembrandt, and again most brands offer a Cobalt Violet. This violet is light fast and is supposed to be one of the most expensive pigments to use in commercial watercolour. However, I don't know how true that is, as I have found that there are some more expensive pigments, much more expensive than Cobalt Violet. The next one that I'm trying out is Manganese Violet. and this is a handmade one by myself. This is PV16. It's a granulating colour, it's light fast, and it's also pretty consistent across all commercial sources really. It's another sort of warmer plum coloured violet. According to handprint.com, it behaves a lot like an alizarin crimson or a fondigo violet. I've not found a alizarin crimson to behave like this one, and I don't have a fondigo violet in my collection, so I can't compare. If you guys are finding this information useful and are enjoying this video, please consider leaving a like on this video, as it would really help. If you'd like to help even further, you can leave a small comment down in the comment section, or go check me out over on my other pages such as Instagram and Patreon, where a full scan of this sheet will be available for as little as $1. Another handmade colour now, this is Cosmos PV47. I've not found this one offered commercially anywhere. I may be wrong, I don't have all the watercolour brands in my collection, I'm afraid. And in a way that's quite good because I don't have the room to store them all. This one is again another pinky violet, and I found this one slightly interesting to work with, as you'll see when it's all dried and you can see in the final swatches. I can't seem to find much information on this pigment. I'm assuming, like most cobalts, it is quite light fast, and my own tests also place it with fairly good light fastness. First off, I'd like to apologise for the poor lighting in the next video. On the clip, I'm not sure what happened here, but it's a bit odd. And the next pigment is also quite odd we're looking at, as it's a red pigment. The next one is Ultramarine Pink from M. Graham. This is PR58. I do quite like this one, even though it's a little bit more unusual. I find that it's a really nice colour. Handprinted.com recommends using this with earthy colours such as raw sienna and Venetian red, as it would help enhance them. I haven't tried this in this colour testing, but I may do in the future, as that sounds quite an interesting mixture. So we're all done now with the swatching and the colours have all dried. So let's take a look at the results. So these are the dry results of all the violets that I tested. And you can see they're quite varied amongst all of them. They're all quite different. But to me, looking at this, there is definitely one clear winner. So let's go ahead and talk about some of them now. So the ones that definitely stand out, not particularly a good way, are the two cobalt colours. So the PV14 Cobalt Violet and PV47, the Cosmos Cobalt Violet Light. They are definitely more pink than purple. These stand out because they're pink and they also heavily granulate. I don't know if you can see really heavy granulation in that. And as well, they're opaque. They covered this line. Not heavily opaque, probably just about opaque. You can see some deposit, but it's not a huge deposit like, say, a cadmium colour. Now the mixes of both these colours are quite pale and they granulate. You can see granulation in them. I will give you a zoomed in shot in a second so you guys can see that. So I'll just zoom it in for you and you can see there all the granulation, all the different colour coming out in the mixtures. Now I did struggle to get a mixture with these colours because the violet is such a weak pigment. It's not very strong, this violet, so it wasn't very good in terms of mixing. When looking at this series of Pigment Playtime, I'm looking at how colours are mixed. It's to do with how they work with each other and how they would work in a more restrictive palette. When I had a palette of 40 watercolours, I had at least 3 violets on that palette. Now I'm only using about 15 colours, I have to be a bit more selective. And while these violets do have their uses, in a mixing palette they're not very useful because the mixtures just don't hold up very well against other pigments. It was very difficult to mix these. The other paint that I mixed it with pretty much ate the entire colour up, and I had to use quite a lot of the violet. So if I just zoom back out. So the other one, which is a bit of an odd one, is the Ultramarine Pink. So this one is by M. Graham. This colour and pigment is quite hard to re-wet. I have this colour in from Old Holland as well, and that one is nearly impossible to get any colour off of once it's dried. The M. Graham one, you can get colour off of it fairly well. One thing to say about that is M. Graham paints are usually very soft, almost like they're fresh out the tube, even weeks after pouring. This is firm, this paint, and it did take a little bit of working, but I got a nice colour from it. This one is very opaque, you can see that on the line there. It doesn't granulate, this one, or if it does, it doesn't granulate very much. I can't really see any granulation in it, but it may do. It is an ultramarine colour. Mixes again were okay, nothing amazing. This colour was easily overpowered by the mixing colours. So Manganese Violet now, this is my handmade one. It's a granulating violet. The mixes were mid-range, I guess. This colour is not as weak as the other violets that I've just talked about, but it's also not very strong compared to some others. And it does also granulate, and you can see that texture in it as well. So the Schlevener Violet now, this is PV19, so it's a quinacridone violet colour. These can range from anywhere from pink to red to purple, and this one is kind of a plum colour. It's very transparent, there's no deposit on that black line. It's a really nice colour. It does dull down quite a bit though once it's dried. It's not bright pink like it is when wet. The mixtures were okay with this. Quinacridone colours are very strong-willed and they won't be overpowered too easily. And I found the mixtures were pretty nice. It's not a violet, it's plum, kind of like a plum colour. It's not a true violet colour, but it does produce like a nice few mixes, and it's definitely a really nice colour. So the other one I'm going to talk about now is the blue violet. So this is Ultramarine Violet. This one is probably the one I would put in second place in a way. It wasn't a particularly strong colour. I did have to use quite a lot of the violet to get a decent mixture down at the bottom here, but nowhere near as much as the other violets down this side. So that was good. It does granulate, but only just. This one's from Sennelier. It doesn't have very strong granulation, so if you wanted to use this in mixing for like skin tones, etc., you could get away with it because it's not heavily granulating. It is a fairly semi-opaque. There is some deposit on this black line. It's a really nice soft violet colour. It's not overly strong, but it's quite a soft violet. I wouldn't use this as a sole violet on my palette because it's just not strong enough to mix with. I have here 3 swatches of the Ultramarine Violet from 3 other brands that I have in my collection. So the Rembrandt one in the middle is the most granulating. The Da Vinci is a little bit more blue than the Sennelier version. And the M. Graham one is a little bit more red, and it's pretty similar to the Sennelier version actually. It's quite a nice smooth colour, and it's got a nice bit of brightness to it. So the winner in my eyes is Dioxazine Violet, PV23. The mixtures are strong, solid mixtures. It doesn't granulate. It's got a really nice tonal value to it, all the way from really, really dark to nearly black to a really nice soft violet colour. This paint light fastness rating is varied between manufacturers, but when I've seen people test it, I've noticed that even when it fades a little bit in the sunlight, it doesn't fade massively. You can still tell it's violet, and it sort of goes to this kind of hue down here in the sunlight rather than the full black if you were to paint it. So it doesn't really fade very much. Most of them are pretty light fast. You can get a different version. I believe it's PV37, I want to say off the top of my head. M. Graham make it, and that's their Dioxazine, and it is supposed to be more light fast. So guys, what do you think? Which is your favourite violet? from this episode, please do let me know. And which one do you use a lot in your palettes? I think everyone has a different preference on this, and I definitely think that a violet is probably a colour that I would definitely want to have in a palette. It's very helpful for neutralising yellows, and it makes really nice shadow tones. I don't really like to have to make my own violets out of a red and a blue. I just don't find the mixtures quite so successful. So remember to like and subscribe this video, and hopefully I shall see you in the next one. Take care guys, bye bye.